Alright guys, so destructuring was introduced in ES6 and it gives us an easy way to assign variables and extract variables from arrays and objects. If you've ever worked with frameworks like React, then you've probably used destructuring before. Not just frameworks, but any kind of modularized JavaScript. And we're going to go over ES6 modules later on and actually build a project using them. So let's go ahead and do this now. Since we're not using modules, we're just going to use hard-coded data in the same file. But let's go ahead and look at destructuring. Did I spell that right? Destructuring. It's hard to talk and type at the same time. Let's say assignment. So destructuring assignment. So let's say we want to create a variable, let's say A and B. So we're just going to initialize them here, and then we're going to set some brackets and say A and B, and set that equal to an array of 100 and 200. All right, now if we go ahead and console.log A, what do you think we're going to get? Let's save, and you can see we're going to get 100. And I'm guessing that you know what B will give us, and that's going to give us 200. And we could keep going on. We could do C 300 and so on. All right, another thing we could do is use the rest. I don't know if it's the rest operator or the rest pattern, I believe is what it's called. So let's say rest pattern. So what this means is, let's say we want A to be 100, B to be 200, and then we have a bunch of other values like 300, 400, 500. Oops. And then we want a variable to be called rest. So we're going to use this 3 dots here. This is actually called the spread operator, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But this is going to assign whatever's left over into an array into a variable called rest. So let's go ahead and console log rest and save, and you can see now we have an array that has 3 values, 300, 400, and 500. Now if I were to add a C variable here like that and save, now it only has 2 because now C is going to have the 300 inside of it. If I save that and console log C, we get 300. Alright, so that's how the rest pattern works. Now, this is using arrays. We can also do this with objects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use parentheses here to make this an expression, and then we'll use curly braces and we'll say A and B. And we're going to set that equal to another set of curly braces. And actually I want to put spaces in here, make that a little neater. And in here we're going to say A 100, B 200, 300, D 400, and E 500. Alright, and then we can go down here and we can say console.log, and let's log A and B and save, and you can see we get 100 and 200. And we can use the rest pattern here as well. So if I were to copy this, and let's just put another comma here and say ... rest, and then let's go ahead and log rest and save, and you can see we get C 300, D 400, and E 500. Alright, so this is destructuring assignment. Now this is kind of confusing, so let's go a little further into both array destructuring and object destructuring in a way that we would actually use it. Alright, so let's say array destructuring. So what we'll do is create an array here called people, and we'll just set it to some names. We'll say John, Beth, and Mike. And then what I want to do here is say const, and then set some brackets here with some variable names like person 1, person 2, and person 3. And we're going to set this equal to people. Alright, so going by what we did up here, you guys can probably understand what's going to happen here, it's going to put John into person 1, Beth into person 2, and so on. So let's make sure that that actually happens. So we'll say person 1, person 2, and person 3, and save, and you can see we get John, Beth, and Mike. Now we can also do this with an array that was returned from a function. So let's say parse array returned from function. So if we were to do like function get people and then return an array like this, then we could go down here and we can say, first of all, let's initialize person 1, person 2, and person 3. And then we'll set those equal to get people. Okay, equal to the function itself. And then let's do what we did here and just log all 3 variables. And again, we get John, Beth, and Mike. All right, so that is array destructuring. So I don't think that this is as useful as object destructuring, so let's get into that. All right, so when you work with, hold on, destructuring. So when you work with frameworks like React, or you're using ES6 modules, you're usually going to deal with object destructuring. You may have some kind of library module where you're exporting an object, but you want to get certain functions or certain properties from that object. So what I'm going to do is just create an object called person, and we'll set a name. And an age, city, and let's do, I don't know, gender. All right, so we have this object. Now, the old ES6 way, I'm sorry, the old ES5 way, let me just show you what we would do. We would say like const name equals person.name, and then we'd have to do age equals person.age, and then let's say we wanted the city, person.city. All right, so we'd have to do something like that. But now we'll say new ES6 destructuring, and we can simply do const and then open up some curly braces here and just basically pick out what we want. So name, age, and city, and we can say equals person. All right, so I'm gonna just comment that out, and let's see what happens if we do console.log the name, the age, and the city, and save, and you can see we get John Doe 32 Miami. So this is a much cleaner and easier way than doing this. And even if we had like a function in here, so even if we did something like that, we could just go ahead and throw in here, say hello, go down here and call the function and save, and we get hello. All right, so it makes things much easier. This is actually something that's used quite a bit in ES6. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for destructuring. We're going to look more into this later on when we start to get into modules.